Have you ever found yourself getting frustrated over something that should have been easy?
Not because the task was hard, but because your brain was expecting things to work the way they used to.
Today, we're talking about what happens when life changes, but your brain's still operating from the same mental map. This is Angry on the Inside. I'm Jess.
And I'm Jeannine. We're both certified ADHD coaches, but this podcast isn't coaching.
It's not therapy and it's not medical advice.
It's real, honest conversations about being women with late diagnosed ADHD and everything that goes along with it.
Take what resonates and leave the rest.
This episode came out of the one that we did on moving, that conversation that we started, at least among ourselves, of what it's like when your brain still works with the old map.
We had a conversation that ended up on the cutting room floor. But really, the more we talked about it, the more we realized that it's not just about moving.
No, it's a grief.
There are so many triggers that can back these major transitions.
Divorce, losing the person you love, becoming an empty nester, being diagnosed with ADHD at 40 or 50, and just suddenly realizing the life you've been living doesn't fit you anymore.
Your life changes, but your brain is just not catching up yet.
We rely so heavily on the workarounds and the systems that we've developed over the years, some knowingly, most of them unknowingly. A major life change disrupts those carefully built coping systems we have in place. It turns a struggle for us to shift our mental gears, to let go of those established workarounds and adapt to that new information.
The map doesn't automatically update. It's there, but we kind of forget it is. It's sort of a ghost in the machine situation, which I love. My ADHD brain is very much a ghost in the machine, period. But this is a moment where it definitely shows up for me. That old map, it keeps giving us the same direction. It's the one that's guiding that autonomic nervous system that allows us to reach out for the pencil we know is going to be next to us, or to go to that landing pad where our purse is, even though we don't call it a landing pad. And even though we don't think of it as being the exact place that it naturally happens, then when that space is gone, that's where the frustration really starts to weigh in and begin.
Especially if you lived in your last place a really long time, you'd spent years building all those workarounds and those systems just to function. We really depended on those. We didn't know we were building them, but we were. Then you lose them all overnight, and that is just generally destabilizing.
Right now, this is the part that is surprising me most. I've gone from a rental home to a Airbnb to another Airbnb, all within the span of 3.5 months. My brain has had enough of it. Until now, I knew there were systems that I had in place, and I knew I would get frustrated when I moved and I would get overwhelmed. But I never realized how many systems I truly had built out until I've had to restart it over and over again. I would say it's like Groundhog Day, but it's not, because I'm not retaining anything and the freaking environment is changing. So it's like I'm so screwed. It's like I grabbed my purse of life and just shook it out on the frickin' floor.
You think you're just existing, but really you're creating hundreds of tiny supports that just help your ADHD brain function. Maybe your keys always go into the same bowl, or the coffee maker has to be positioned exactly where you can see it. The calendar is on a specific place in the kitchen. You mentioned the landing pad. And I remember reading about that, like, you should have a landing pad, and realizing, oh, well, my purse is always in the same place all the time. I don't lose my keys because my keys are in my purse, and my purse is always in the same place. And then it was an example of those things that we build ourselves. We don't even know we're doing it. I didn't need someone to tell me about a launching pad because I secretly figured it out by myself. And then I think, damn, I'm smart.
You are freaking smart. You've trained yourself to put things in specific places, because if you don't, they disappear into the other dimension. They automatically go into that ADHD multiverse to never be seen again. From what you were saying, one of the best things that ever happened in my life was purchasing a car that I just had to have the key with me for it to start. That invention, if it wasn't made by someone who is neurodiverse, it was made for all of us who are neurodiverse. That sucker sits in a zipped pocket in my purse. I never take it out. I only know if I have that giant bag stuck to me somehow that my car is going to start. And if my car doesn't start, that means I left that giant ass bag in the house, and I'm really hoping I didn't lock myself out. Right now it's the Airbnb, but you get my scene. You know where I'm running to.
But now I feel like you just called me out, because that is actually why I never lose my car keys. because I just have the car keys in my purse. I don't actually have to like find them, look for them. Thanks, Jess. I felt like I was being really, yeah. Whoever invented that is probably one of our tribe. And thank you very much for doing that.
Training ourselves to put things in specific places. The way this shows up is when people will say, I just like my things a certain way. Like
Yes. Yeah.
when you try to like clean up for somebody or you move something around and then they flip the fuck out. I like my things a certain way. Or you'll explain to a person like that. Oh, it's okay. She just likes her things a certain way. That's because you have a trained space where your stuff goes. If people try to put their shit there or try to move your stuff, as George Carlin would say, some shit's going to blow up.
Moral of the story, don't move her stuff.
That's not an exaggeration.
What's fascinating about that is just how invisible those systems become. We stop noticing them because they're working. It's like oxygen. You only notice it when it's gone.
Where does this bring us to? It brings us around to something our brains are constantly doing behind the scenes, which is predicting what comes next.
The more something matters, the stronger the map, the longer you've lived in that house, the more times your brain has walked that path and it knows what to do. It starts following down that path. And then suddenly the keys aren't in the purse that's supposed to be on that door, on that counter in the kitchen, or you have no idea how to get home because you used to just be on autopilot. Then you finally do get home and your dog's not there.
And that's how grief can linger.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to let it linger?
Ooh, so we can do the cranberries at the end of this.
Yeah. God, I love the cranberries.
So,
But anyway, not because we're doing something wrong, but because those neural pathways were built over years, sometimes decades, and they don't go away overnight. Sometimes the old one still pops up.
you should, in convenient times, it seems.
Right? It's not just emotional, it shows up physically also.
Our brain always fills in things. It always wants to know answers. And so part of grief is your brain going, I come into my house and my husband's going to be sitting in that chair and they're not there.
That sentence captures grief because grief isn't just sadness. It's expectation colliding with reality.
Yeah. Your brain predicts what's supposed to happen next. Think about it. It does it constantly all day long. And when you walk into a room and your brain, it already has an expectation of what should be there, who should be there, and they're not, then your brain's lost.
Because those neural pathways are literally set in cement. You know, it's filling in the blanks before you even consciously think about it. It's like we're literally trying to put a square peg into a round hole, but that's all our brain knows what to do because we're referring to the outdated neural map. And those neural pathways are there. They are solid, they are set, and they aren't going anywhere for a while.
That's a really efficient system. If our brains had to process every piece of information from scratch, every second of every day, we'd be exhausted.
Our ADHD brains are already exhausted. We are already running on a deficit, not a deficit of intelligence or information by any means, but we're fucking tired.
So the brain creates shortcuts, patterns, predictions, and most of the time it's incredibly helpful until life changes.
I love that you found this idea and perspective about grief and that we can talk about it because it really is. I would not have recognized my emotions about reaching into the same drawer and not finding the silverware. I would not have associated that with grief. But as it goes on and as it sort of like all these basic tasks elude me, that's really what it is. It's making me sad. What was the name of that book again, Jeannine?
I was going to talk about it because I didn't want people to think you're the only one who reads. I read too, huh? No, but no, I found this book a couple of years ago and it's called The Grieving Brain. It's by Mary Frances O'Connor, a PhD from the University of Arizona. Go Wildcats. She is a neuropsychologist and it really is about, it's just a fascinating look at our brains and that everything's wired and it has its predictions, its expectations. I think her husband died. She talks a lot about death, of the walking into the room, or you hear people talk about, I keep thinking my wife's going to walk in the door, or I'm going to pick up the phone and they'll be there. If it's just your brain is like, this is what happens. It's already wired in, but now it has to change it. And so it's not just the sadness of it, but your brain literally has to relearn that, no, that person's not going to come back anymore, which God, that's so sad and depressing. But you can see it just is how it can hang you up. ADHD brains struggle with this more than neurotypical brains, which I know is shocking, right? How many times did I see something in the corner of my eye and that's Bear? Something on the floor, that's Bear. Well, Bear has been passed away 8 years ago. It's my brain still sees a shadow or something when I'm like, oh, that's Bear. Because your brain is, and I'm not articulating it well enough, but it was one of those things, especially with how you and I've been learning so much about the brain, that it was like, oh, it makes total sense.
We doubt ourselves sometimes. We immediately kind of go to, is my mind playing tricks on me? But every single person who's lost a pet understands what you're saying just immediately. It resonates.
Because it still happens. I mean, not as often. What gets me most, I don't even live in the same house. Like Bear's never lived in the house that I'm in now, but I swear sometimes I can still catch him out of the corner of my eye. They say with grief is you never really get over it. You just learn to live with it. It just becomes a part of who you are. You get the waves of grief, the cycle through grief, but your brain will eventually start to rewire itself. And I think it becomes easier or less painful. You can almost kind of laugh at yourself at that point. Like, oh my gosh, why do I think Bear's still going to be there? He's been gone for 8 years and he's never lived in this house. Maybe his ghost found us. Maybe that's it. No,
It might be. Though I do totally want to go to a pet psychic, and I know you do too.
I know my ex has Bear's ashes. I'm asking for those back.
Good.
That was too nice. I want Bear's ashes. Damn it.
I do know it is sad. I know that it sounds sad. It's a solid book with the way you're describing it. Sounds like our heart understands one thing and our brain is still latching on to another thing.
What's interesting is how often are we told, like, stop being so emotional. You need to be logical. Well, it's your brain. It thinks it's being logical. Your brains, I tell you, they always betray us.
I'm telling you. That's one of my pet peeves because one of the things that we all say the most is people have told us we are over emotional. You see on so many posts, TikToks, infographics, and all that. Oh, you're over emotional. Nah, maybe you're just kind of a dick. Maybe you can't handle the fact that I'm showing emotion and you don't know how to. Maybe it's the fact that I feel things and my emotions are close to the surface. And so to make yourself feel better about making me feel like shit, you're going to tell me the problem is me. We grow up and it's that stigma that's held in our head, those words that repeat to us.
Yeah, revenge is a strong word, but feels like grief is having a moment in our public conversation. I've heard some people say it has to do with a pandemic and our generalized grieving as a country, as a society. But really, all the research says grief is natural. We all go through it, but the key is you have to go through it. The only way is to move through it. You can't push it out of your head. You can't deny it. All those people who are like, stop being so emotional. Well, you know what? They're the ones who are fucked in the head now because they didn't deal with that crap.
That was beautiful, Jeannine.
The crap part.
That's what starts to happen with those old mind maps that we have. It starts to experience neural pruning. Those synapses that were connected together, they're going to eventually split apart. They're going to be pruned because you don't need them anymore. They don't all go away. So you will still have those glimpses, spots, those overlaps of thinking on the corner of my eye, or we have a smell, a sensory, something like that. And we think that we can smell our grandma or our mom, or it just takes us back into a memory. The synapses, not all of them end up pruned. And that's why we're going to have those sort of ghostly effects. All of it was based on familiarity and repetition. Those new repetitions, they're going to connect based on those years of experience. It'll allow us to continue to gain our energy back and have our structure so that we can continue to move forward. Those, I'm not looking for the word glimpses and I can't get the right fucking word.
Glimmer.
Those glimmers still appear because they're overlapped with that new understanding. It's repurposed, it's updated, but it will never be completely disconnected from the original. It's like an overlay.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
many of us struggle with autonomic nervous functions, but here we are creating workarounds that act as autonomic functions rather than us falling to the out of sight, out of mind issue that we usually run into and that we all hear about. It actually becomes it's been in my line of sight for too long to realize it's there. object permanence issue. Even
Mhm.
though it's internal, it is object permanence because we do not realize that it affects us in the way that we do. And when we lose it, then we suddenly start that self blame. Suddenly you're freaking exhausted. You feel like you're using 10 times more energy than you would doing these basic tasks. You are no longer working with an accurate mind map. Those synapses are not connecting yet. You're still working on the old neural connections, and it's frigging exhausting.
Yeah. Support structure disappeared. The environment changed, the cues changed, the systems changed. Now your brain's just trying to function without all that scaffolding that had quietly built up over the years.
What we're trying to say, short story long, is that at the heart of the episode, autopilot is fucking huge. Autopilot frees up mental energy.
Your brain doesn't have to work as hard, and you know where things are, you know what happens next, and you know just how to move through your day.
Its capacity.
You're in the middle of it right now, Jess. Where are the plates? Where are my shoes? What freaking cabinet is this supposed to be in? What route do I take? What time do I leave? You don't have new systems that work yet.
If I approach each one of those individually, it's not a difficult question to answer. I can stop and pause, think about it, but there's never just one. There's hundreds and hundreds of things all day long, and it's exhausting.
Especially for ADHD, decision fatigue is real. Executive function fatigue is real. You've taken 100 automatic actions and turned them back into a conscious effort.
No wonder why transitions are feeling overwhelming. If I could pay for somebody to just make these fucking decisions for me all day long, I would. I would literally buy back my capacity.
We're grieving more than just the thing we lost. We're grieving the ease, the familiarity, the mental energy that we used to have available that is now being sucked up just trying to remember the basics of everyday life.
The immediate loss of bandwidth for anything we truly enjoyed doing because we put ourselves last so often, losing that attention that we give ourselves. That in and of itself creates grief that is so truly real, even if nobody else can see it. What's really screwing with me right now in the Airbnb that I'm in is that there are multiple switches for the same light. At no point have I figured out how to have all of the switches in the down position while all of the lights are off. There are ones that are up, but the light is off. It is seriously screwing with me. I don't know. They were kind of floored because when we moved out of the Airbnb, because people who own this one own the one we were in last time. They've been
Uh-huh.
very kind to us and considerate. But they were a little weirded out, I think, when we did the walkthrough and she was like, "Oh, I just got to grab the sheets off the bed." And I'm like, "No, I washed all the linens and I washed all of the rugs and I mopped and I swept." And, I'm like, and I'm going through all these things. And she's like, "Oh,
Oh,
I'm not ultra cleanly, but I can't leave a house not being ready for the next person. I just can't." It's a mental roadblock, really, because I knew I was still going to have to pay for the cleaning fee. I did the same freaking thing in our rental when we moved out. I'm like exerting all this energy because for whatever reason, my brain thinks I have to.
it's environmental memory. It's muscle memory. It's your brain learned a route and stored it. We're using so much energy managing or trying to manage our executive function.
As automatic routes disappear, suddenly things require active thinking again. And that's where life starts to feel surprisingly exhausting. Before the move, your house was basically running on autopilot. You didn't think about where the plates were. Your brain already knew. You didn't think about where you kept the dog food, the extra toilet paper, the measuring cups. Don't be wrong, half the time we can't find the shit that we know where it's actually at, but you still had that idea where you're like, I know it's at least supposed to be here.
You could just move around your environment pretty automatic, like on autopilot. But then suddenly every tiny task, it's like a fucking scavenger hunt. You rearrange your room, and for weeks, you're still navigating around the furniture that no longer exists.
Reaching over for that light switch in the old location, driving towards your old house, opening the wrong cabinet every single day. Learning takes time and learning takes energy.
It takes more energy than most people realize.
And this is why frustration is spiking during transitions in your life. You're working harder than you actually think you are because you're not giving yourself grace or understanding that your scaffolding is gone and your map's outdated and you're making 100 new decisions every hour on the hour.
When everyone looks at you and be like, oh my gosh, why are you so frustrated? Just calm down. You're so stressed out. It's like, well, yeah, because my brain is freaking building new pathways. I got to build new routines and new shortcuts, it's exhausting.
right? It's like, I'm building a whole new life. And people are like, are you freaking kidding me? And you're like, dude, I don't even know where the fuck my fork is. And it's my special fork. And I'm all out of spoons. So if you keep this shit up, you might end up getting stabbed with said fork when I find it. It's real work.
If you're standing in a place where everything feels harder than it should,
Your brain is still trying to build a new version of home, a new version of normal, and a new version of what comes next.
be gentle with yourself because losing the old map and drawing a new one is really hard.
Eventually, little by little, that new map starts to feel familiar.
When you move back into autopilot, you won't notice. Not because nothing's changed, but because your brain has finally found its way.
Share this episode with somebody who's building something new in their life, a new routine, a new chapter, a new home, an understanding of themselves.
Until next time, remember, you're not alone and you're not the only one who's angry on the inside.